New documents obtained by the Brennan Center for Justice reveal that the LAPD directs officers to collect social media information of every individual they interview, including people who are not accused of a crime or arrested. According to an internal memo, the department added lines for interviewees' social media handles to their physical field interview cards back in 2015. An undated document also shows the LAPD used social media monitoring software to follow search terms almost exclusively associated with leftist protests, including hashtag Say Her Name, Black Lives Matter, Tamir Rice, and Sandra Bland. Robbie, looks like this story's right up in the libertarian wheelhouse. Why does the LAPD, and everybody's wheelhouse, frankly, why does the LAPD need people's social media information who have, aren't even under investigation for anything?
They don't, and they shouldn't. I mean, this is kind of just general surveillance of people who are interested in political topics and subjects is absolutely inappropriate. And it speaks to the conservatives. I've talked about this a lot on the show. Conservatives are always saying that they are the target of big tech, et cetera. But leftist protesters are the targets often of the police. The police tend to be a little more right-leaning than other categories of government employees. And this is a clear, case of abuse.
Yeah, for sure. You organize a left-wing protest, you're going to have hundreds of police, if not thousands of police officers show up to it. January 6th, they organize a giant right-wing protest, and they have the normal crew show up to defend the Capitol. But that's beside the point. Kim, any cops randomly ask you for your Twitter handle when you're walking around L.A.?
Not yet, but I don't really get stopped too often. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, I've been on a watch list before, a government watch list for writing an environmental bill back in the 90s when environmental movement was considered, the protesters were considered terrorists of some kind. So the concern about this is that this is kind of like a local watch list potentially that the LAPD is putting together. And when they start to gather, okay, who are these people that are engaging in these social media activities and hashtags, and we got to keep an eye on them. What do they then do with that information? Do they limit those folks from being able to, go places or do things? I know for myself, for example, I couldn't fly very easily after September 11th. So, that's a big question and a big concern that I think people should have with this. I think when people first look at this story, they might say, well, okay, but they ask for your name, they ask for your identification. That shows where you live. They're asking for, all kinds of personal information about you. So what's the difference kind of snooping around your social, especially if your social's public? But again, it comes down to this watch list sort of creation that they potentially are coming up with.
And also it shows why, a lot of people on the, maybe not the progressive side of things, young progressives talk a lot about hate speech, and we need to, many of them think hate speech is already illegal or should be illegal. That's not the case. The Supreme Court has not defined hate speech as some category of speech excluding protection. But they want hate speech to be illegal. And I always say, well, what do you think, what kind of speech do you think the police, the people who enforce the laws, are going to consider hateful? It's going to be criticism of the police, and in fact, police are being added as a protected, designated, a protected category.
Marginalized group.
Right, a marginalized group. It's going to be leftist activity that is deemed hateful if you move back from that broad free speech norm and start saying you can criminalize speech. It's just so obvious how it will and has in the past blow up in the left's face. And this is a very telling reminder of how and why that happens.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.